Although many Westerners still imagine Vietnam through the lens of war, it is, in reality, a country filled with captivating natural beauty and tranquil village life. Its highlands and rainforest regions, far from being devastated, continue to yield new species and teem with exotic wildlife. Vietnam is geographically located in Southeast Asia. Its borders are China, Laos, Cambodia, and the Gulf of Tonkin. Vietnam shares the maritime borders with Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand. Its national language is Vietnamese, while its three dialects are Hanoi, Hue, and Saigon. Hanoi, the northern dialect, is the basis of standard language and is the most prestigious dialect. Vietnam has a very rich history. In 1858, France decided to take over Vietnam, and their conquest was completed in 1884. Vietnam became part of French Indochina in 1887. Vietnam declared their independence after World War II, but France did not leave until they were defeated by the Communist forces under the rule of Ho Chi Minh in 1954. Geneva Accords split Vietnam into the Communist North and the anti-Communist South. In the 1960s, the US military aided southern Vietnam, but withdrew their forces in 1973. Since then, Vietnam has not seen much economic growth. In the year 2018, the population living in Vietnam was 97,040,334 people. It shows in the illustration that the Vietnamese population is aging. While demographic transition is still underway, the population growth is a rapid 2% annually. Also in the year 2018, the total fertility rate was 1.79 children born per woman. That is slightly lower than the US at 1.87. In a 2009 national census, 81.8% of the Vietnamese identified themselves as non-religious, meaning only 19.2% of the population identified with a registered religion. Among these religions were Buddhists at 7.9%, Catholics at 6.6%, Protestants at 0.9%, and Muslims at 0.1%. The currency used in Vietnam is the Vietnamese dong. $1 amounts to about 23,000 Vietnamese dong. This means that if you were to bring and exchange about $43 into Vietnam, you would be able to classify yourself as a millionaire. In terms of the health and income inequality indicators and human development, there is a huge difference when comparing statistics of Vietnam to the United States. For example, the infant mortality rate in Vietnam is 11.7 deaths per 1,000 live births higher than it is here in the US. In Vietnam, the under 5 mortality rate is 21 deaths per 1,000 live births, while it is only 7 deaths per 1,000 live births here in the United States. The maternal mortality rate is 54 deaths per 100,000 live births in Vietnam, while in the US, it is only 14 deaths per 100,000 live births. Life expectancy for both genders in Vietnam is 73.9 years, while it is 80.1 in the United States. Based on these side-by-side statistics, it can be concluded that Vietnam has a lot of work to be done when it comes to public health. Out of 189 countries and territories, Vietnam is ranked 116 on the Human Development Index with an index of 0.694. As comparison, the United States is ranked 13 with an index of 0.924. In 2016, the Gini index in Vietnam was 35.3, while the US was at 41.5. The Gini index measures the extent to which the distribution of household incomes within an economy deviates from a perfect equal distribution. The Gini index of 0 represents perfect equality, while the index of 100 represents perfect inequality. The education system in Vietnam is fairly organized. Education for children is divided into 3 sections: preschool, primary school, and secondary school. Secondary school has 2 divisions, the lower division and the upper secondary division, which is optional. Overall, Vietnam has made significant progress in basic education. According to the 2009 census, the net enrollment rates for primary and secondary levels were at 95.5% and 86.2% respectively. Even though Vietnam has made significant strides in their education, disparities still remain when it comes to ethnic groups. There is a low completion, low enrollment, along with high dropout and high repetition rate. The primary school completion rate among these children are significantly lower than that of the Kin and Hoa children. The healthcare system in Vietnam is composed of combined public and private provisions. Private hospitals provide over 60% of outpatient services. As for healthcare, universal coverage has been implemented since 1993, and greater than 70% of the population has been reached. The healthcare system is divided into 4 levels by administrative structure. The central level is comprised of hospitals owned by the Ministry of Health and hospitals owned by the cities. The remaining 3 levels are provincial, district, and commune, which are all hospitals provided and owned by local provincial governments. Hospitals, especially at the central level, have plenty of problems with overcrowding, where bed occupancy rates are at 120 to 160%. Vietnam has a DOHA, or the Direction of Healthcare Activities Policy System. Through this system, health facilities at higher administrative levels support the lower levels in providing medical services to local communities. Vietnam is currently in the process of reforming their healthcare system. A master plan is set to be finished by 2025. Vietnam has many national issues regarding health. One is cardiovascular diseases, or CVD. In 2012, stroke has been the leading cause of death with 21.7%. During that same year, 7% of deaths were from ischemic heart diseases. That's about 36.5 thousand deaths. The World Health Organization reported that 13% of the Vietnamese population are at high risk or are with existing CVD. They also reported that 29% of high-risk persons receive drug therapy and counseling to prevent heart attacks and strokes. They also reported that 3% of the population had elevated blood pressure. This is because the Vietnamese tend to use more sodium-based sauces in their food. Also, they are not active every day. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. There were 4 million people who suffered from COPD due to smoking in 2016. 22.5% of Vietnam's population smoked tobacco products, and 18.2% of the population smoked cigarettes. 53.5% of non-smokers were exposed to tobacco smoke at home. In the year 2014, Vietnam was one of the top 10 countries with the highest cigarette consumption. Breast cancer affects a huge percentage of Vietnamese women. In 2012, over 10,000 cases of female breast cancer were diagnosed. This was a 30% increase after 10 years. Many studies associate the prevalence of breast cancer with demographic, reproductive, and lifestyle factors. However, some studies relate the use of Agent Orange during the Vietnam War with the high prevalence of cancer among the population. At the individual level, mental health is another issue that Vietnam is dealing with, and this could be due to the lack of freedom of expression. As opposed to other governments, basic civil and political rights like freedom of expression, association, and peaceful public assembly are severely restricted. The Communist Party of Vietnam monopolizes power through the government. Activists questioning government policies face harassment and frequent physical assaults by officials or by thugs hired by the government. According to UNICEF, half of the healthcare facilities in Vietnam lack basic water services. 1 in 10 people still open defecate in ponds and rivers. Although open defecation has been significantly reduced, it is still very common. As mentioned earlier, overcrowding and the lack of medical equipment in healthcare facilities are concerns. Local production of equipment cannot meet demands, so importing them is encouraged. This increases the price of healthcare. The lack of qualified doctors, nurses, and other healthcare providers is also a result of overcrowding. Issues affecting the youth in Vietnam. Policy and legislation. Investing and budget for youth is very constrained. Employment. Gender, ethnicity, and location limit some of the youth from working. Migration. Although migration aids urbanization, youth without access to employment or social or reproductive services fall into sexual exploitation and illicit drug use. Here are some public health concerns. Infectious diseases. Dengue fever remains pervasive and the geographical scope has been expanding. Non-communicable diseases. These are found especially in rural areas. As mentioned earlier, smoking. Alcohol consumption. Harmful misuse causes road traffic accidents and suicidal thoughts. Gender-based abuse. Abused women tend to report non-use of contraceptives and unexpected pregnancies. These factors increase the risks of induced abortion. Finally, the lack of hygiene education. Environmental Performance Index. The 2018 Environmental Performance Index ranks 180 countries on 24 performance indicators across 10 issue categories. These metrics indicate how close countries are to have an established environmental policy goals. Smaller ranking, like the US, who ranks at 27, have stronger overall performance. Bigger rankings, like Vietnam, at 132, have weaker performance. Environmental concerns. Global warming. Vietnam is listed by the World Bank among the countries most threatened by rising waters from higher global temperatures. Such a rise could leave 1/3 of the Mekong Delta underwater and lead to mass internal migration and devastation in a region that produces nearly half of Vietnam's rice. Air pollution. Motorcycles have been a symbol of economic freedom in Vietnam, but they also are the main source of air pollution. The air in cities contain dangerous levels of benzene and sulfur dioxide. Just like most Asian countries, Vietnam follows the grow first, clean up later pattern. Water pollution and shortage. Some families draw drinking and washing water from the same canals where people defecate and throw garbage. In addition, Vietnam faces future water shortages due to rapid growth of its population and economy. Rapid coral decline. Less than 25% of coral reefs surveyed have living coral in them, and the remainder are at high or at very high risk. This is 8 times the Southeast Asian average. According to one study, about 85% of Southeast Asia's coral reefs in Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam are severely threatened by human activities such as pollution and overfishing. Protected areas are suffering from deforestation and habitat loss. Oil spills occur in the sea, as Vietnam is the second largest oil shipping route from the Middle East to Northern Asia. Dead rivers. Sewage from hospitals and factories are being poured into some major rivers. Every day, about 650 cubic meters of wastewater in Hanoi's inner city areas is discharged directly into rivers and lakes, while only 206 cubic meters of water is being treated. Vietnam has one of the highest chemical input use rates among countries in Asia and the Pacific. Each year, an estimated 73 million tons of livestock waste are improperly disposed into ponds, channels, and sewers. Other times, they are left in the fields, which eventually pollute the surrounding areas. Land use pressures have led to significant environmental problems, including severe deforestation, soil erosion, sedimentation of rivers, flooding in the deltas, declining fish yields, and pollution of the coastal and marine environment. The use of Agent Orange by the U.S. military in the Second Indochina War during 1954 to 1975 has had a lingering effect on Vietnam in the form of persistent environmental contamination that has increased the incidence of various diseases and birth defects. Under the One Plan 2017 to 2021, the United Nations Development Program supports Vietnam to accelerate its transition to a low-carbon economy, enhance its resilience to climate change and disaster risk, and to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment has drafted a National Action Plan on Air Quality Management from 2020 to 2025. The plan includes a 20% reduction target for NOx, SOx, and particulate matter, which are emitted by cement, chemical, fertilizer, and petroleum production facilities. In 2017, a decree went into effect putting in place fines up to 1 billion Vietnamese dong, more than $44,000, for individuals violating environmental laws, and up to 2 billion Vietnamese dong, about $88,000, for organizations, the highest administrative fines ever to be put in effect. This video by Vietnam Microfinance Working Group will provide us an introduction on microcredit in Vietnam.
Tại Việt Nam, hơn 50% dân số đang sống dưới mức chuẩn nghèo quốc tế với 2 đô la Mỹ một ngày. 96% các doanh nghiệp tại Việt Nam là các doanh nghiệp nhỏ và siêu nhỏ, và chỉ có 35% trong số này tiếp cận nguồn tín dụng chính thức. Vì vậy, một khoảng cách về tài chính vẫn còn tồn tại trên thị trường, đặc biệt là nhu cầu của nhóm các hộ gia đình có thu nhập thấp chưa được đáp ứng. Họ không có tài sản thế chấp và không có khả năng để xây dựng một phương án kinh doanh khả thi đáp ứng yêu cầu của ngân hàng thương mại. Họ không thuộc diện nằm trong các chương trình hỗ trợ vốn vay từ ngân hàng chính sách xã hội. Họ cũng chưa thể đạt tới mức doanh nghiệp nhỏ và vừa để tiếp cận vốn vay từ quỹ tín dụng nhân dân. Họ là những người nghèo, người thu nhập thấp bị bỏ rơi trên thị trường tài chính của Việt Nam và buộc phải tiếp cận nguồn tín dụng đen để vay tiền khi có nhu cầu về tài chính. Tổ chức tài chính vi mô xuất hiện như một công cụ giảm nghèo hữu hiệu thông qua việc cung cấp các dịch vụ tài chính cơ bản đáp ứng nhu cầu của người nghèo, người thu nhập thấp, bao gồm dịch vụ tín dụng, dịch vụ tiết kiệm, dịch vụ thanh toán, chuyển tiền, lương hưu, bảo hiểm và các dịch vụ phi tài chính. Thứ nhất, tài chính vi mô tiếp cận trực tiếp với khách hàng tại nơi họ sinh sống và tập trung vào nhu cầu khách hàng, nên các chi phí của khách hàng bao gồm chi phí cơ hội do không thể làm việc mà phải tới điểm giao dịch, chi phí đi lại, chi phí ăn uống do điểm giao dịch xa và thời gian đi lại kéo dài, chi phí hồ sơ, giấy tờ sẽ được chuyển sang chi phí hoạt động của tổ chức tài chính vi mô. Thứ hai, phương pháp cho vay theo nhóm, không cần tài sản thế chấp nhằm giải quyết sự hạn chế tiếp cận dịch vụ tài chính của người vay và tăng cường trách nhiệm cộng đồng. Bên cạnh đó, các dịch vụ phi tài chính được cung cấp bởi các tổ chức tài chính vi mô như xây dựng nhóm đoàn kết và tập huấn về tài chính, dịch vụ phát triển kinh doanh, tổ chức các cuộc họp của các nhóm tín dụng và tiết kiệm để cung cấp dịch vụ xã hội như chăm sóc y tế cơ bản, kế hoạch hóa gia đình và xóa mù chữ. Thứ ba, khoản vay nhỏ, mức vay tăng dần theo khả năng sử dụng vốn và thành tích hoàn trả của người vay, trả dần định kỳ với mức thấp, giúp khách hàng giảm thiểu rủi ro, tăng cường khả năng quản lý tài chính, đạt tỷ lệ hoàn trả tốt và tiếp cận được nhiều người nghèo hơn với nguồn vốn cho vay hạn chế. Tài chính vi mô được xem là công cụ hữu hiệu, trọng yếu trong công tác giảm nghèo, tăng cường an sinh xã hội và phát triển kinh tế của đất nước, đáp ứng mục tiêu xã hội và hỗ trợ hoạt động tài chính vi mô bền vững, thực hiện đề án xây dựng và phát triển hệ thống tài chính vi mô tại Việt Nam đến năm 2020. Nhóm công tác tài chính vi mô Việt Nam với 92 thành viên liên kết chặt chẽ, vận động chính sách nhằm hoàn thiện khuôn khổ pháp lý, hỗ trợ phát triển tài chính vi mô bền vững tại Việt Nam, đẩy mạnh thu thập và chia sẻ thông tin tới cơ quan hoạch định chính sách, nhà tài trợ, nhà đầu tư và các nhà thực hành tài chính vi mô, nâng cao năng lực tới hơn 800 lượt cán bộ nhân viên trong hệ thống tài chính vi mô, kết nối nguồn vốn cho các tổ chức tài chính vi mô, góp phần tạo ra tác động tích cực, hỗ trợ hàng nghìn người nghèo, người thu nhập thấp tiếp cận nguồn vốn để phát triển sản xuất kinh doanh, cải thiện đời sống, giảm tệ nạn cho vay nặng lãi, tăng cường kiến thức xã hội, hỗ trợ công cuộc xóa đói giảm nghèo, phát triển kinh tế xã hội của đất nước. Nhóm công tác tài chính vi mô Việt Nam cam kết hoạt động hiệu quả, bền vững, chuyên nghiệp với mục tiêu hướng tới một hiệp hội tài chính vi mô, hỗ trợ thúc đẩy phát triển hoạt động tài chính vi mô theo thông lệ tốt nhất trong một môi trường thuận lợi tại Việt Nam.
Success stories. Miss Nguyen had borrowed 5 million Vietnamese đồng, which is about $215, with a term of 12 months. She initially invested in 2 sows and now has a business that generates 8 to 9 million Vietnamese đồng. Her story is only one of hundreds that have been helped by microfinance in Vietnam. Here are some basic and common Vietnamese words. Xin chào. This means hello. Tên tôi là Chris means my name is Chris. Bạn khỏe không means how are you? Cảm ơn means thank you. Tạm biệt means goodbye. We hope you learned and enjoyed our presentation on Vietnam. We will be here to answer any questions you may have. As the Vietnamese would say, Cảm ơn.